The Mother is one, but she comes before us with differing aspects. Many are her powers and personalities, many her emanations and vibhutis that do her work in the universe. The one whom we adore as the Mother is the divine conscious force that dominates all existence, one and yet so many-sided that to follow her movement is impossible even for the quickest mind and for the freest and most vast intelligence. The Mother is the consciousness and force of the Supreme, and far above all she creates. But something of her ways can be seen and felt through her embodiments, and more seizable, because more defined and limited temperament and action of the goddess forms in whom she consents to be manifest to her creatures. There are 3 ways of being of the Mother of which you can become aware when you enter into touch of oneness with the conscious force that upholds us and the universe. Transcendent, the original Supreme Shakti. She stands above the worlds and links the creation to the ever unmanifest mystery of the Supreme. Universal, the cosmic Mahashakti. She creates all these beings and contains and enters, supports, and conducts all these million processes and forces. Individual. She embodies the power of these 2 vaster ways of her existence, makes them living and near to us, and mediates between the human personality and the divine nature. The one original transcendent Shakti, the Mother, stands above all the worlds and bears in her eternal consciousness the supreme divine. Alone, she harbors the absolute power and the ineffable presence, containing or calling the truths that have to be manifested. She brings them down from the mystery in which they were hidden into the light of her infinite consciousness, and gives them a form of force in her omnipotent power and her boundless life, and a body in the universe. The Supreme is manifest in her forever as the everlasting Sat Chit Ananda, manifested through her in the worlds as the one and dual consciousness of Ishvara Shakti and the dual principle of Purusha Prakriti, embodied by her in the worlds and the planes and the gods and their energies, and figured because of her as all that is in the known worlds and in unknown others. All is her play with the Supreme. All is her manifestation of the mysteries of the eternal, the miracles of the infinite. All is she. For all are parcel and portion of the divine conscious force. Nothing can be here or elsewhere but what she decides and the Supreme sanctions. Nothing can take shape except what she, moved by the Supreme, perceives and forms after casting it into seed in her creating Ananda. The Mahashakti, the Universal Mother, works out whatever is transmitted by her transcendent consciousness from the Supreme and enters into the worlds that she has made. Her presence fills and supports them with the divine spirit and the divine all-sustaining force and delight without which they could not exist. That which we call nature or Prakriti is only her most outward executive aspect. She marshals and arranges the harmony of her forces and processes, impels the operations of nature, and moves among them secret or manifest in all that can be seen or experienced or put into motion of life. Each of the worlds is nothing but one play of the Mahashakti of that system of worlds or universe, who is there as the cosmic soul and personality of the transcendent Mother. Each is something that she has seen in her vision, gathered into her heart of beauty and power, and created in her Ananda. But there are many planes of her creation, many steps of the divine Shakti. At the summit of this manifestation of which we are a part, there are worlds of infinite existence, consciousness, force, and bliss over which the Mother stands as the unveiled eternal power. All beings there live and move in an ineffable completeness and unalterable oneness, because she carries them safe in her arms forever. Nearer to us are the worlds of a perfect supramental creation, in which the Mother is the supramental Mahashakti, a power of divine omniscient will and omnipotent knowledge, always apparent in its unfailing works and spontaneously perfect in every process. There, all movements are the steps of the truth. There, all beings are souls and powers and bodies of the divine light. There, all experiences are seas and floods and waves of an intense and absolute Ananda. But here, where we dwell, are the worlds of ignorance, worlds of mind and life and body separated in consciousness from their force, of which this earth is a significant center and its evolution a crucial process. This too, with all its obscurity and struggle and imperfection, is upheld by the universal Mother. This too is impelled and guided to its secret aim by the Mahashakti. The Mother, as the Mahashakti of this triple world of the ignorance, stands in an intermediate plane between the supramental light, the truth life, the truth creation, which has to be brought down here, and this mounting and descending hierarchy of planes of consciousness that, like a double ladder, lapse into the niches of matter and climb back again through the flowering of life, soul, and mind into the infinity of the Spirit, determining all that shall be in this universe and in the terrestrial evolution by what she sees and feels and pours from her. She stands there above the gods, and all her powers and personalities are put out in front of her for the action, and she sends down emanations of them into these lower worlds to intervene, to govern, to battle and conquer, to lead and turn their cycles, to direct the total and the individual lines of their forces. These emanations are the many divine forms and personalities in which men have worshipped her under different names throughout the ages. But also she prepares and shapes through these powers and their emanations the minds and bodies of her vibhutis, even as she prepares and shapes minds and bodies for the vibhutis of the Ishvara, that she may manifest in the physical world and in the disguise of the human consciousness some ray of her power and quality and presence. All the scenes of the earth play have been like a drama arranged and planned and staged by her with the cosmic gods for her assistance and herself as a veiled actor. The Mother not only governs all from above, but she descends into this lesser triple universe. Impersonally, all things here, even the movements of the ignorance, are herself in veiled power, and her creations in diminished substance, her nature body and nature force, and they exist because moved by the mysterious fiat of the Supreme to work out something that was there in the possibilities of the infinite. She has consented to the great sacrifice and has put on like a mask the soul and forms of the ignorance. But personally too, she has stooped to descend here into the darkness that she may lead it to the light, into the falsehood and error that she may convert it to the truth, into this death that she may turn it to God-like life, into this world pain and its obstinate sorrow and suffering, that she may end it in the transforming ecstasy of her sublime Ananda. In her deep and great love for her children, she has consented to put on herself the cloak of this obscurity, condescended to bear the attacks and torturing influences of the powers of the darkness and the falsehood, born to pass through the portals of the birth that is a death, taken upon herself the pangs and sorrows and sufferings of the creation, since it seemed that thus alone could it be lifted to the light and joy and truth and eternal life. This is the great sacrifice called sometimes the sacrifice of the Purusha, but much more deeply the holocaust of Prakriti, the sacrifice of the Divine Mother. 4 great aspects of the Mother, 4 of her leading powers and personalities, have stood in front in her guidance of this universe and in her dealings with the terrestrial play. 1 is her personality of calm wideness and comprehending wisdom and tranquil benignity and inexhaustible compassion and sovereign and surpassing majesty and all-ruling greatness. Another embodies her power of splendid strength and irresistible passion, her warrior mood, her overwhelming will, her impetuous swiftness and world-shaking force. A third is vivid and sweet and wonderful, with her deep secret of beauty and harmony and fine rhythm, her intricate and subtle opulence, her compelling attraction and captivating grace. The fourth is equipped with her close and profound capacity of intimate knowledge and careful, flawless work and quiet and exact perfection in all things. Wisdom, strength, harmony, perfection are their several attributes, and it is these powers that they bring with them into the world, manifest in a human disguise in their vibhutis, and shall found in the divine degree of their ascension in those who can open their earthly nature to the direct and living influence of the Mother. To the 4 we give the 4 great names: Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. The faith in the divine Shakti must be always at the back of our strength, and when she becomes manifest, it must be or grow implicit and complete. There is nothing that is impossible to her who is the conscious power and universal goddess, all creative from eternity and armed with the Spirit's omnipotence. All knowledge, all strength, all triumph and victory, all skill and works are in her hands, and they are full of the treasures of the Spirit and of all perfection and siddhis. She is Maheshwari, goddess of the supreme knowledge, and brings to us her vision for all kinds and wideness of truth, her rectitude of the spiritual will, the calm and passion of her supramental largeness, her felicity of illumination. She is Mahakali, goddess of the supreme strength, and with her are all mights and spiritual force and severest austerity of tapas and swiftness to the battle and the victory and the laughter, the atahasya that makes light of defeat and death and the powers of the ignorance. She is Mahalakshmi, the goddess of the supreme love and delight, and her gifts are the Spirit's grace and the charm and beauty of the Ananda and protection and every divine and human blessing. She is Mahasaraswati, the goddess of divine skill and of the works of the Spirit, and hers is the yoga that is skill in works, yoga karmasu kausalam, and the utilities of divine knowledge and the self-application of the Spirit to life and the happiness of its harmonies. In all her powers and forms, she carries with her the supreme sense of the masteries of the eternal Ishvari, a rapid and divine capacity for all kinds of action that may be demanded from the instrument oneness, a participating sympathy, a free identity with all energies in all beings, and therefore a spontaneous and fruitful harmony with all the divine will in the universe. The intimate feeling of her presence and her powers, and the satisfied assent of all our being to her workings in and around it, is the last perfection of faith in the Shakti. Prayer helps to prepare this relation for us at first on the lower plane, even while it is there consistent with much that is mere egoism and self-delusion. But afterwards, we can draw towards the spiritual truth which is behind it. It is not then the giving of the thing asked for that matters, but the relation itself, the contact of man's life with God, the conscious interchange. In spiritual matters and in the seeking of spiritual gains, this conscious relation is a great power. It is a much greater power than our own entirely self-reliant struggle and effort, and it brings a fuller spiritual growth and experience. Necessarily, in the end, prayer either ceases in the greater thing for which it prepared us. In fact, the form we call prayer is not itself essential so long as the faith, the will, the aspiration are there, or remains only for the joy of the relation. Also, its objects, the artha or interest it seeks to realize, become higher and higher until we reach the highest motiveless devotion, which is that of divine love, pure and simple, without any other demand or longing. The relations which arise out of this attitude towards the divine are that of the divine father and the mother with the child, and that of the divine friend. To the divine as these things, the human soul comes for help, for protection, for guidance, for fruition. Or, if knowledge be the aim, to the guide, teacher, giver of light, for the divine is the sun of knowledge. Or it comes in pain and suffering for relief and solace and deliverance. It may be deliverance either from the suffering itself or from the world existence which is the habitat of the suffering, or from all its inner and real causes. In these things we find there is a certain gradation. For the relation of fatherhood is always less close, intense, passionate, intimate, and therefore it is less resorted to in the yoga which seeks for the closest union. That of the divine friend is a thing sweeter and more intimate, admits of an equality and intimacy, even in inequality, and the beginning of mutual self-giving. At its closest, when all idea of other giving and taking disappears, when this relation becomes motiveless, except for the one sole, all-sufficing motive of love, it turns into the free and happy relation of the playmate in the Leela of existence. But closer and more intimate still is the relation of the mother and the child, and that therefore plays a very large part wherever the religious impulse is most richly fervent and springs most warmly from the heart of man. The soul goes to the mother soul in all its desires and troubles, and the Divine Mother wishes that it should be so that she may pour out her heart of love. It turns to her too because of the self-existent nature of this love, and because that points us to the home towards which we turn from our wanderings in the world, and to the bosom in which we find our rest.